Welcome to a instant reaction. Joe Castiglione, Sooners, long time athletic director of 28 years, has announced that he will be retiring. And I'm going to quote Pete Thamel, who broke the news, sometime this school year. Um, so we don't know the exact date of when all that's going to take place. But Joe Castiglione's days as Oklahoma's athletic director, as Oklahoma's revered, renowned, uh, distinguished athletic director, days are coming to an end. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Jesse Crittenden as we delve into this huge, as Jesse called it off air, Monday news dump. Um, Thoughts, Jesse? I want to get your instant reaction on this. Just thoughts. Go with it.
Well, my instant reaction was, my first one was, it's never boring in Oklahoma. It is never boring to cover the University of Oklahoma athletic department. My first thing. My second thought was, this is supposed to be the deadest week of dead weeks when it comes to news. It's early July. SEC Media Days is a week away. And then I think the other thing is the immediate thought of everybody is going to be what this means for Oklahoma, who Joe Castiglione's replacement could be, what that search is going to look like, what all of this, how much this changes the landscape of the OU athletics department, and all those things are valid, and I know we'll touch on them. But I think the main thing for me is good or bad, and I think there are things you can praise or credit Castiglione for. I think there are maybe some things you can criticize him for, certainly. But I think the one thing that can't be lost before we talk about all this future stuff is just how much of the foundation he has been for OU athletics for the last 3 decades, and how important that was for OU when you compare it to the landscape of a ton of other Power 4 programs. When you look at some of the chaos that other programs have been in, to have the same guy, for better or worse, for the last 3 decades was not only incredibly rare, but I think that loyalty, his passion for the program, for the athletics department, I think can't be overstated. And good or bad, this is a massive change incoming. It's going to represent an entirely new direction. But I think more than anything, it's just, there's something to be said for taking a second and acknowledging how crucial, how important he was, and how crucial and important it was for him to be this guy for the last 3 decades.
He has been the rock, the Gibraltar, if you will, that everybody kind of stood on, and has been Mr. Consistent when it comes to OU athletics for nearly 3 decades, which is like, I look, let's put it to you. I'm going to walk you all through how long this man and what he's meant to this athletic department, because he got hired in 97, correct?
98, I believe.
98? Okay, 98. I'm 42. I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore in high school when he was hired as OU's, and it was a big deal. I remember he came from Missouri, and the big thing that he had to do, because OU's athletic department was in a financial disarray, he came in and he cleaned house. He started fundraisers. He did a lot of things. And then obviously on the heels of his hiring, he had to go directly out there and try and he had to try to fix the OU football program, which was just the one thing that and I'll never forget this. I will never forget this, Jesse. He came in and they had just, I guess, built, or were in the midst of building the Switzer Center. Not what it is today, obviously, but like the OG, where it was like this museum, 2-story museum, where you walked in and saw the history of OU athletics. And it was like this state-of-the-art, interactive, and all the old heads are going to know what I'm talking about, people that are my age or older. Do you remember that? Are you old enough to remember it? Okay. So that happened. But he made a comment publicly, and I'll just never forget it. I don't know why it's stuck in my head, but he said something to the extent of, and because I don't want to misquote him, I'm just going to paraphrase it, of OU's facilities are 2 decades behind a lot of other places that he's been. And he was referencing like Missouri. And that was kind of a kick to the groin to OU fans, to the alumni. I think they thought they could just lean on the logo. And I look, that's not to say that that hasn't happened during his tenure where the logo has gotten leaned upon, at times. But that happens after success, right? But the one thing you always notice about Joe Castiglione was that he adapted. He always has adapted. Now, this, and I think he's talked about it, he's always going to do what's best for the program, right? He said that multiple times when asked, when are you going to retire? I'm going to do what's best for the program when it's best for the program. So as the NIL landscape transitions down the line, I think even he sees that it's different in what he grew up in. The world of athletic director is different than what he grew up in. It doesn't have the same connotation or the same sway because money sways everything now, right? In athletics. It always has, but it does to a even more individual standpoint because you have to pay the players now. And so that's changed. But he's adapted even in that, even after like when Brent first showed up. Remember, they weren't really big in NIL. Then all of a sudden, 23, 24, 25 classes, boom, 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 they're throwing money around like crazy. They've always adapted. They just got the number one player in I don't know how long in women's basketball, right? Like they've adapted, and they've adapted solely under his leadership. So you have to give credit where credit's due with that. I know there are fans out there that are going to sit there and point fingers and say, well, what about this, this, and this? But the man's adapted. He's always adapted.
Well, look, the last 3 decades have not been perfect. Of course, there will be fans that will point to the lack of facilities or upgrades for men's basketball or for baseball in particular.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff that we can point to, or even the fact that, the Brent Venables tenure so far has not been wildly successful. But I think when you're talking about how much the college landscape has changed, think about what he has overseen. He was hired in the midst of the football program's worst several year stretch ever. Gets a national title in his second year as athletic director. Think about, he was there for the 03 title run, the 04 title run, the 08 title run, the playoff appearances in 15, 17, 18, 19. He was there for the basketball programs, the men's basketball program's Final Four trip in 2002, the Elite Eight trip in 2008, the Final Four trip in 2016, every single softball national championship. He's there for all of that. Think about how much college athletics have changed in 5 years, let alone 30. And so I think for one, I think just put into context just how much he has seen and how much the college landscape has changed in the last 30 years since he's arrived. I think you're right. I think in a lot of ways he has adapted. Let's not even forget that he was a pivotal part of OU transitioning from the Big 12 to the SEC, how big of a fundamental change that is for the program. So I think when you put all of that into context, this news is shocking in the sense of what it represents for the program. But you're right. I mean, think about, look, he's almost 70 years old. He is 67. He was hired before he turned 40 years old. Think about when you put that again into context. And yeah, it's just an entirely different world. Think about Nick Saban stepping down as the head coach of Alabama. And a lot of that being because the landscape is just totally different. That's why I think this news is shocking. But when you think about what he has seen, what he's been a part of, and now where the landscape is going, this news is shocking in terms of what it represents, but probably not entirely shocking given how long he's been in the role. He's the longest tenured AD in college athletics. And thinking about where the landscape is going, it's probably not entirely shocking from that standpoint. But make no mistake, This is one of the biggest figures in the University of Oklahoma, period. Not only just the athletics department. This is as big as David Boren stepping down. This is all of that stuff. And now it's kind of uncharted territory in terms of where OU goes from here.
Yeah, and from that standpoint, I mean, do you go young? Do you go like what? I think that's kind of the biggest question is where do you go from here if you're Oklahoma? Because and who can you convince to follow Joe Castiglione? That's gonna be
Well,
that is that even been talked about? Like
well,
everybody's throwing these names out there. Like who wants to follow him? It was like
well,
when Saban left Bama. That is what Joe Castiglione is in the world of athletic directors. And I don't think OU fans quite grasp that he is revered on that level in that world. And you're
I mean,
asking somebody to come in and follow that. Follow that.
well, and
That's a
even
lot.
and Pete Thamel mentioned in his story that 32 of his employees have gone on to become athletic directors or commissioners. Think about that kind of impact, and his tree is felt across the landscape. And I think the other thing to quickly add is this isn't just about following Castiglione's footsteps. Think about the timing of this. But this is coming before one of the most important seasons in OU football history, where there's a world where we get to the end of this season and OU's got to look for a
Mm-hmm.
new football coach. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a like so you're not only just trying to get somebody to be perfect in this changing college landscape. You're not only just trying to get somebody to follow Castiglione after 3 decades, but also it's possible the next AD is going to be tasked with finding a new football coach. And I'm not trying to be speculative. This football season could go perfectly, but that's also a reality of this timing and what could be ahead for the new athletic director.
Is Randall Stevenson a name that you look at with his and I know he hasn't done a lot in athletics, but with what he did with AT&T, right? Um, just his background with everything.
I think it's going to depend on what you want in that role. I don't think it's not dissimilar to OU hiring Jim Nagy as general
Yeah.
manager. It's not, and they went for somebody with NFL experience, and now Nagy is building out a front office filled with people who have NFL experience. But so it depends. Do you want to run this? I don't know if like a business is the right way to put it. Do you want NFL experience? Do you want college football experience? Do you want collegiate experience as a whole? Do you want young? Do you want old? There's a lot of stuff they're going to have to factor here.
If you're Oklahoma and you know Joe C is going to he's probably going to get some say, probably quite a bit of say in who is following in his footsteps because he's not going to want things ruined that he set up. But at the same time, there's going to be a balance where he probably is also looking for somebody that's going to be a little bit more progressive in their thinking as far as how to attack the NIL universe of uh, college athletics now. That maybe he maybe I'm not speaking for him. I'm just speaking in hypotheticals here. So I don't want anybody to take this. I don't want anybody to say, well, Drumm said this or this. This is all hypothetical. This is just off me talking off the top of my head. Like we are literally instantly reacting to this. Does he want somebody that is going to be more progressive in their thinking, that may be a little bit more open to the money aspect of throwing money at recruits than he was originally? Because when it was a collective, he didn't have to really worry about it because it wasn't coming out of the coffers of the university. But now that you're combining with the collective, with the third party, you know, endorsements and all that type of stuff, do you want somebody that's more progressive in their thinking, that maybe a Zach Selman has a idea or two, being in his late 30s, early 40s, that and can stay long standing just like he does? Maybe they're looking for somebody that they feel could be a long-term fit for years to come, that's young enough that can adapt over the next few decades and not feel like things are changing to the point where they don't recognize athletics in a way that it started whenever they got hired. Kind of like where it is with Joe C now. Like, it is nothing like it was when he got hired. Nothing.
That's the other part of this too, is that the role of athletic director now is vastly different than it was 30 years ago. And not only just, again, what we were talking about with maybe the new AD has to look for a new football coach if things go sideways. Part of this also, OU is opted into revenue sharing. So now you've got that variable and all the things that are changing with NIL, as you mentioned. I do think, if OU was searching for an athletic director 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, what you would be looking for is probably different than it is now. And I think just as Jim Nagy is kind of you kind of have to create that general manager role from scratch because there's not real precedents. You're kind of doing that with athletic director now too. Like I don't know if there is this is what we're looking for because everything is unknown right now. But as I think Zach Selman is a name that's going to be mentioned in part because of his age and what you just said. OU needs to find somebody who not only can continue adapting because everything continues to change, but they need to find somebody who they can build with. They need to make this hire with having the mindset of this is a person that can be here for a decade plus.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
I 100% agree with that. You're looking for stability in a time when athletics is unstable. I think, and this is really weird to say, and you and I can kind of talk about this because we're very passionate about this team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you're OU and you see how the CBA keeps changing things up and how they adapt with the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Like, they keep adapting with everything that changes in the world of NBA. Presti, Clay Bennett, they've adapted and almost perfected how to go about that. Do you not look at how they've done things and gone, okay, we need to find somebody that is young, brash, but also measured in everything that they do as far as athletic director. That way you can find somebody that can adapt, yet be measured and not overreact to all the changes that are going to take place, because there's going to be a lot of court rulings moving forward. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to change. The rules are going to be in the gray more than they are in the black and white until somehow, some way, the Supreme Court and the government gets involved here with college athletics. That's a reality, Jesse. So you need to find somebody that's going to be measured, yet progressive enough to move along, but also have a backbone and stand on what they're going to do and how they're going to attack it. And yeah, it's not going to be pretty sometimes for OU fans, but somebody that's going to, just move along steadily and build something that's sustainable. And I think that's something that's missing in today's college athletics more so than not, is sustainability. There's not a lot of sustainability because everything is so transfer portal, buy one, get two free type deal where you buy a championship and then you're down. I mean, look what happened to Florida State after they went 13-0. They were awful. They bought that 13-0 season, but then couldn't buy the next few seasons after that. They were awful. So like that's something that also has to be thought about, Jesse, is sustainability. And not just with college football, mostly with college football, but with men's basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball. Like, your big hitters have to be sustainable and have sustained success for you to be viewed as a good athletic director. And how are you going to do that and balance that in the world of NIL? Like, I feel sorry for anybody that comes in during this, Jesse. I really do. Like, this is going to be a tough job.
I don't know if I would say I would quite. I get your sentiment because the reality is, like, you could be coming into a world where the football season it could be mirroring the 90s when Joe C came in. That's a possibility for the next
We don't
person
think that's
walking
going
in
to
that they're
happen, just so you know. Like, neither one of us believe that.
no,
So,
no, but it's
yeah.
certainly I mean, they're coming
Yeah.
off of 2 6 and 7 seasons in 3 years,
Facts.
and we could get to November and OU 7-5 or 6-6, and
Possible.
that's when, obviously it's helpful that Jim Nagy is. I think that is also a factor that is really important for the football program specifically as they look for. But you're right, because as much as college football rules the day, you're also trying to stay competitive in the SEC as a whole. And you've got to try to get the baseball program going because we know how important baseball is in the SEC. Softball is its own beast. I don't think this factors in, but like you still want softball to be competitive. Men's basketball, it's great that they made the NCAA tournament last year. They made some good portal additions this offseason, but you need to get the basketball program to be competitive. That's the hard thing. As much as I love the Thunder, what they have done is, shown sustainability and they've shown adaptability. But whoever's stepping into this role is not only going to potentially have to fix things with the football program, but also invest all of these other resources in these other programs in the SEC. Oh, and you also have to factor in revenue sharing, which is a completely new variable that we have no precedence for in terms of how it will affect everything. And Brandon, the other thing is, what if programs get cut because of revenue sharing? That's a whole other factor in this too. Again, I'm not reporting anything. I'm not saying anything will happen, but that's also a reality where programs or where athletic departments lose a athletic program or two because of so I think it's going to be hard to thread the needle of adaptability and sustainability when you're having to juggle all of these other things and there's no real blueprint for it. So this search is not cut and dry, and there are people who will mention names, and Zach Selman's going to be a big one, obviously, not only for his ties to OU, but I mean, because of a bunch of other reasons. But this is not a cut and dry search. And that's why I think Joe Castiglione staying on or committing to staying on through the calendar year is important, not only for that foundation to still be there, but they're not going to make a hire tomorrow. They're not going to make a hire a month from now. It wouldn't shock me if we get to the end of football season and a hire isn't made. There is so much they've got to weigh here before they name a replacement. So much.
The other name that I feel, and we're going to have, I just want everybody to know, like, you can go to ouinsider.com right now. You can sign up for $1 for the first week. $1, literally. If you don't like it, it's an easy click. Boom. You don't want to stay, bam. Click it. You don't get charged. Really simple. Go to ouinsider.com. We're going to have, obviously, a hot board and all that. But there's another name, and we're going to have a lot more names than just Randall Stevenson, Zach Selman. The third I'll throw out there is Kirby Hocutt at Texas Tech. And the reason I throw that out there is, one, he's very close with, obviously, Joe Castiglione. Two, who did he play for? Bob Stoops? Yeah.
Yep.
3 years.
Yep.
His ties are deep at Oklahoma. Whether he's worked there or not, they are deep and rooted at Oklahoma. So that is a name, and what they've done at Texas Tech has been nothing short of magnificent, from the men's basketball program to the women's basketball program to softball to baseball to, obviously, the football program, what they're doing right now. He's changed the very fabric, and obviously it takes money, but guess what? He is one of the better fundraisers. He's one of the better fundraising athletic directors. He's one of the better and well distinguished, well thought of athletic directors in all of college sports. And with his ties there, it's interesting. Remember, I know that still Texas Tech's doing great things, Jesse, but Oklahoma's Oklahoma. Lubbock's Lubbock, and I'm not hating on Lubbock. Lubbock's Lubbock. I actually think for where Lubbock is, it's an amazing city for where it's set at. It really is. It's a really nice community. However, Norman's set in one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in all of America. And you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot going on there, and you're within a stone's throw of Dallas, Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas. I think, what is there, like 10 million or what? No, it's more than that. I think in that little area, I think there's like 14, 15 million people that you can lean on in comparison to where Lubbock's at, like in like a something like a what 4 hour radius right there. Like it's crazy. So there's a lot of advantage that Oklahoma has there if they wanted to go there. Now, I'm not saying that's where they're going to go. I'm just throwing the name out there. I think it would be an interesting, at least to kick the tires, Jesse. Check the temperature. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I like the idea. Make no mistake, this is still as much as we've talked about the landscape of college sports and how tough everything
Yeah.
is right now, how unknown everything is. This is still Oklahoma, and this is not only a powerful brand, but it's also just a brand in the SEC that's not. They're not trailing. They're not fighting from behind. Somebody that they hire should be able to come in and be excited about where things are and the potential for Oklahoma to be at the cutting edge. I mean, I think like what Jim Nagy in this front office is doing is cutting edge. They are setting a precedent and setting a standard. All that being said, like when you look at the Jim Nagy hire, they didn't get somebody with OU ties.
Nope.
They brought in somebody with NFL experience, with scouting experience, and managerial experience. Even Randall Stevenson, Randall Stevenson has an OU tie, but they brought him in primarily for that managerial experience. Even Joe Castiglione, he came from Missouri, didn't have an OU tie, but then obviously stayed because he fell in love with the OU brand. So all that being said, I think when you think of Joe Castiglione's replacement, it's going to be interesting the way they approach this. Do they lean on OU ties? Do they lean on somebody with a real connection and affinity for the brand? Or do you look at somebody and say, no, look, they have 2 decades in collegiate athletic experience, or they have this amount of managerial experience, or they have this amount of football experience. I think those ties, who you just mentioned, again, Zach Selman is going to be a guy because of his OU ties and because of his Joe Castiglione ties. It's going to be really interesting to see what they value and what they prioritize here, because they have to get this right. They're going to have a ton of candidates. It's going to take them months to hire everybody or to interview everybody that wants to be in this job. There's going to be dozens and dozens of candidates that are going to have all kinds of strengths and weaknesses. OU's going to have its pick of the litter. It's just going to be interesting to see what they value and how much does having OU ties factor into that decision making.
And I would be definitely remiss if I did not throw out the fact that Kirby Hoka also played alongside and for grad assistant, also teammate Brent Venables. So, yeah, I totally just brain farted right there on that one. But when he started talking, I was like, wait a second, I do believe Brent Venables was around during his tenure there too. So yeah, there's a lot. Look, like you said, we're gonna have hot boards. This thing is going to be ever changing, but it's going to be a fun topic of conversation. You can join the thousands and thousands of OU fans over there on OUinsider.com on 3 Rivals. We've moved over. It's a lot of fun. The board's hopping. It's a great time. Go to OUinsider.com, sign up. $1 for the first week. Then I believe it is, what is it? $11.99 after that a month, I believe. Or $11.99 a month. Or you pay, I think it's $109.99 for a whole year. But it's worth it. I mean, you're getting your value of information. There's a lot of recruiting information going on. Jesse's dropping a lot of nice information when it comes to softball transfer portal stuff. He broke the news the other day with a massive pitching signee that Oklahoma got in the transfer portal. So you're always up to date. Brody Luss with basketball. Obviously, Josh Mahler with baseball. Myself and Parker Thune doing all the football work that we can as far as behind the scenes, team notes, recruiting notes. We've got it all for you on OU Insider VIP. Again, go there, $1 for the first week, then it's $10.99 or $11.99 for the first month, or $109.99 for a whole year. Like, give us a try. Promise you, it's worth it. But that's going to do it for this instant reaction of Joe Castiglione announcing that he is going to be retiring some point during this school year after they hire a new athletic director. I believe the presser is tomorrow, at 9 a.m., right? 9 a.m. Jesse will be along there. We will have all the information for you on OU Insider VIP, hot boards, all sorts of stuff, plus team news, fall camp news coming up, SEC media days, summer workout news, recruiting news. There's also other big news that could potentially be dropping later on today in the recruiting world. We have that all for you on OUinsider.com. For Jesse Crittenden, my name is Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed day.